Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome once again to the happy hours of coaching session. This is Ashutosh here once again, and today we have a very interesting speaker, my ex-colleague Bansidhar, Bansi Deshpande, just for everyone. And he has been a product leader. He has himself played a role of, he has seen the growth of his career right from requirement gathering to, I would say, business analysis to a product owner, and of course, now a product rock star himself. So he's here to talk about how to be a product rock star. And we will have this as an interactive session. So it won't be a monologue where only one of us or only Bansi would be speaking. We would definitely like a contribution from all of you. It's an opportunity for you to learn from a product rock star and how to become one product rock star. So without any further delay, let me hand it over to Bansi, who would take forward the session from here. Over to you, Bansi. And once again, thanks for agreeing to be a speaker here.
Hey, thank you, Ashutosh. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm really honored to be here. And Ashutosh, thank you for giving me a. Sorry. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Ashutosh, for giving me opportunity to have a dialogue with everyone, a fabulous audience here. Um, Without any further ado, let's get started. I myself, you know, um, always a learner, and you'll learn me about that in a minute. But this session is focused on how we can elevate ourselves, uh, whichever role you're in right now, to be really a product thinker, product rock star. And it really doesn't matter if you're a product manager, but if you actually excel yourself in the product thinking, you can be really contributor to your company success, or and your own contributor to your own career. And as Ashutosh mentioned, I would like this session to be collaborative. I really feel that we are coming from the diverse background, and we have we have to learn from each other. A lot of learning will be there in this 1 hour. I'm pretty sure. This is about me. As you can see, there are different words in the word cloud, and some of them are related to the product management. Some of them are related to my personal belonging, my life. So, you can send me a LinkedIn request, and I'll give you my LinkedIn address later on. But I would like to have chat with you on any of these topics, be it empathy, which helps me to be a good product manager, customer obsession. It can be about constantly learning about a lot of facets of life. At the same time, I'm also enthusiast in terms of the trekking and meditation. I like to watch Big Bang Theory. I like to read the books as well. So we can talk a lot about that later on in one-on-one if you like. Uh, and now enough about me, and this session is all about you, right? This is about your journey wherever you are in terms of the seniority, in terms of the role, and to be a rock star product manager. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not only localized on the product management, but each and every facet of the organization. So we'll start from building the mindset to be a product manager, preparing yourself from the skills perspective, from opportunity perspective to be getting into the pre-PM role. I will also share my journey into the product management, how it started, how I got into this role. Also, we'll talk about the onboarding, some of the challenges, especially if you're coming from completely different background. It could be from the pre-sales, it could be from invert side, which is maybe coming from being a QA person or a developer, a Scrum Master. I think there is opportunity and the growth for each and every person to be into the product management. And then finally, how do you rise and shine? What are the key attributes? What are the key qualities that will get you there to be recognized, to be appreciated by everyone within your company and outside? So that's your overall product rockstar journey. And feel free to stop me at any time. This slide deck is only for keeping the track of the time and the structure. But I'll be happy to digress from this, and I'll focus only on your questions if you have any. Okay. And that's the reason we also have all your mics open. You can always unmute yourself and get started. Okay, so before we go to the next slide, I want to know about your backgrounds. And Ashutosh, could you please project the poll quickly so that we know?
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we have a small poll, and I would request all of you to do this poll quickly. So I'm launching the poll, and let us see what's the response we get.
So I want to know about your background so that I can tailor my presentation. But again, as I mentioned, I'll be happy to answer any of your questions, but I will set myself in that uh, mindset, right? Based on your background. So that's where, okay. Okay, so we got so far 4 responses. Many of us want to be a product manager, and yeah, some of us are they don't want to be getting into product management anytime soon, and that's completely all right. Okay, I think this is great. So I know about you as a group, you as a persona. Let me move forward. Okay, now building the mindset of a product manager, and I'll start with a small story here. Um, okay, so there is the in a big field, there is a group of soldiers, and there is a lieutenant. Sorry, the lieutenant is actually trying to bully them. He's trying to drive them to pull a cart. Okay, and they want to push it toward a hillock. And it's a big task, right? Because it's a summertime. It's really hot, and poor soldiers are not even they have not even fed the food, right? And then there is a civilian comes there and he asks this lieutenant, "Can I help you? Can I help your team?" And he says, "Yeah, why not? Go ahead and do it." But he is actually giving only the instructions. This our lieutenant is only giving the instruction. He's not actually coming forward and helping them. And then he goes there to this group and he discusses, he suggests something, and they start pushing again. And then quickly they push this cart over the hillock. Then he comes back, the civilian stranger comes back and he says, "Okay, I have done this." And he's pretty impressed, but then he wants to, he don't want to give any respect to this stranger. He asks, "Okay, are you a civilian?" He says no. He says, okay, he thinks he's from army. He said, "Are you a private, which is equivalent of the soldier?" And he says no. "Are you a lieutenant like me?" He says no, go higher. And then this when he gets alert, he says, okay, he outranks, this stranger outranks me, and he says, gives a salute and says, "Sir, are you a captain?" He says, "Go up." "Are you a colonel?" And this goes on, and finally he asks, "Okay, are you a general of army, our army?" He says, "No." There is a pause, and he says, "Sir, are you?" He says, "Yes." The stranger says, "Yes, I am the President of United States, Abraham Lincoln." Some of you might have already heard this story, but this really reflects the attitude of the great product manager. Um, when he is a leader, it's not about just leading from the, for a team from the behind. He or she is actually the part of the battle. And product manager is really influencing the team, giving the right direction, bringing the customer focus, the perspective, and trying to dive the direction of the product in the right direction. So that's all the qualities of the product manager, and I'll get into that in a minute. And on this slide, right, if you have any specific questions about building a product mindset, feel free to ask, because then we can focus our discussion in that direction itself. Now, let's start about empathy. And this probably is the biggest superpower the product manager has. I'll give you a small example. We had a customer from Japan, and they had a kind of a factory setup, and I was working with a communication company, and they had, one phone being used by one phone having the different bridges. When I say bridge, it's a different phone number. And this particular scenario was troubling us. It was giving some bug. But we were like, why are they using so many bridges on this one phone? By digging deeper, we realized this was a factory setup, right? So there was a phone which is in the middle of the in this cubicle, and all 8 to 10 people are using it, and they don't want really multiple phones there. They just need one phone. This was a great insight, because unless we actually have seen it, like interacted with the customer, we wouldn't be knowing this. But then as a product manager, you should be able to empathize it yourself, and this is where my empathy journey started, with this specific problem. Then the next is all about getting into the focus. When you have the right targets, right strategy in place, your focus automatically gets, you know get into the product itself. So when you talk about focus, you talk about the key performance indicators. What are the exact metrics we need to be focusing on? What is the right strategy? How do I get into the market? What is my target group? What is my user persona? What are their habits? So all that is actually the articulation. It's like a meditative state where we're trying to understand. We are really trying to utilize the empathy in that previous step to bring that understanding about our target market, and driving the product in that direction. Then we have the leadership, and the leadership is not about, again, as I said, it's not about giving the instructions, but really influencing the team by getting their own direction. You're just trying to bring the different perspective, and the team is motivated to lead in that direction. And finally, the collaboration. You have a team, not just an engineering team, not just a R&D team. You have to deal with different sort of teams when you get into the product management. So for example, you have to deal with a legal team when you're actually talking about the compliance of the product. You have to talk to the cloud operations team when you want to push the product into the cloud. You need to decide, is this cloud with the different compliance parameters available in that particular target market. You need to talk to the pricing team, or sometimes you actually only need to own the pricing. You need to talk to sales team to get the perspective from the customer perspective. um, and then finally, when you have all these insights together, that will be actually articulation for your epics or stories that you're creating. But this does not happen without any collaboration. And again, here, the key point, again, I go back to empathy again and again. um, I'll give you an example here. I was i was launching a product, and then there was a person in the cloud operations team, and he was really creating a lot of noise. And I almost felt that he did not want to launch the product. And then I realized, let me go ahead and talk to him and try to understand what is his concern. And the concern really was, how do we service this? Because they already have the happy set of, we already had the happy set of customers. But if we launch this feature, he did not feel confident about it. And then I had a very focused discussion with him, assured him. And this is where the collaboration comes in. So you need to bring the perspective of the individuals and what is their stake into the equation. And that's where you can actually have a really influential and great collaboration. Any questions so far on this building of product mindset? Okay, great. Okay, now prepare yourself getting into the PM role. And this can be tricky depending on your own current role, what kind of knowledge you have. It may be easier journey for the someone coming from the engineering or R&D background, but that's not only the truth. Because if you're coming, for example, the pre-sales side or support side, services side, you can bring in very different kind of perspectives, and that you can add the value into the team. So for example, the developer or the QA person, right? They understand the technology side. They bring in, feasibility angle, and whether even I can implement this great requirement. What sort of problems that can come in. Um, is this actually, this technology is really capable enough to deliver our results? On the sales side, they bring in the customer perspective. So if you're coming from, let's say, pre-sales, how about defining the solutions, how we can actually utilize the current product to give the solution to the customers. So that's a great angle. And then, product managers can bring in that angle, which is kind of not there in the other side, like in engineering side. If you are services or support, you understand the customer pain points day in, day out. And those are the angles you can always bring into the table. So it really doesn't matter where you're coming from. The journey could be a bit complex or easier for you, but ultimately you're bringing some or the other kind of insights on the table. So I encourage, it's an amazing field, amazing role. So consider yourself getting into that eventually. Now, how do I prepare myself to be a product manager? And this I'm talking from my perspective, as well as the experience I have seen with the other people joining into the product management over the time. I also like to mentor. The mentor is a really big word, but really help them to getting into the product management career. And and they come from different part of the industry. And this is where your tribe blazer, like trailblazer, right? You have a tribe blazer, meaning be the part of the tribe, try to join the groups. Like, I think you have already done the first step, right? Getting into the product management by joining this particular webinar. So try to understand different perspectives, different angles, because not to I mean it's not possible that every person is wrong, or every person is right. They're bringing their own perspective, and that's what you can get. You learn about the terms, you learn about the different notes in the product management. This is where you're help them to, for example, if you're joining a group. I'm part of the product tank Pune, and this is where I started interacting with different product managers. They bring in different kind of perspectives which I was not aware of, even though I was product manager for so many years. So be part of the tribe, be part of online or offline tribe, attend these events. I think that will give you different kind of perspectives, not only for the product, being into the product management, also being in your own career or your own role. Now, certifications, a lot of people are asking, what kind of certification should we be doing? And that actually depends on what kind of product management angles you want to fill in, what kind of background you're coming from. But ultimately, I feel that certifications, until they come in action, they will not help, right? So I encourage you to take the certification, but ultimately try to understand how I can, really get them into my usual role. This can be tricky because it's a chicken and egg problem. Unless I am a product manager, I will not be able to use certificates, and I may not be able to get in product management without it. But you can always think about being again part of the tribe. You can always discuss these problems, try to solve them with your colleagues, with your friends, and try to get their perspective using your knowledge gathered through the certifications. Be watchful, and this is I think very important factor, especially around the industry. And then we will be coming to the industry understanding as well. But not just about the product management role within your company, which you obviously should be watchful about, because that's how I got into the product management. I was probably the first product manager from my company. The term itself was not very known. In fact, I got into product management as a system engineer, right? And this was very close to product owner role. Uh, with outside the agile environment. But this is where I was watchful. I actually, and this is where you can actually try helping the product managers, the active product managers, and they love it because typically they are very busy. I'm not posting this, but really there are too many priorities, too many things to take care of, and they always like the help. And this is where I started. I helped my product managers for couple of years, uh, being in software engineering. And then eventually when there was opportunity, obviously they knew how to hire into that role. Intra views. Now, this is interesting. So let's say we are, six of us or seven of us are here, and we are trying to prepare for the product management interviews, and we are actually going through different learnings through being Trailblazer or through the certifications, and then eventually we come together. We try to learn from each other, and also instead of in before even go for the interview, do the interview within your team, within your um, you know your close group, and this is where the confidence on each other, right, that comes into play. And especially um, try to talk to the people who are in your boat, right, which you feel confident about, that trustworthy, and then you actually have interviews with them, each other, and and because they will give you the first hand feedback, very honest feedback, and where you can improve from there. Any question here? Okay.
Yeah, anyone, any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Yeah.
So far, if you have any questions.
Hi, Bansi, Amit here.
Yeah, Amit. Hi.
So, what about the certification? I mean, any specific certification you need for these kind of roles, or I mean, any from
Yeah.
science or something?
Yeah, so far, I mean, okay, if you ask me that question maybe 10 years back, at least in India, there were hardly any certificates available. But now you have certificates for almost all the IIMs
Yeah.
focused on product management. I feel that that's a great experience. Look out for more of a assignment kind of a certification, not just a theoretical certification. Again, because I said it should be in action. There should be actual projects which will help you to implement those theories into action. So based on your motivation, I'll be happy to talk to you one-on-one about if you have identified any certification 3 or 4. I'll be able to help you which one you should go for. And then there are two type of certifications, like just like two type of roles in the industry. There is agile product owner role, which is typically focused on the engineering side of things, where they are trying to define lower level or tactical requirements into the or defining the stories. And there is a product manager role, and that is more of outward role, which is talking to the customers, talking to the sales guys, defining the strategy, defining product strategy, sometimes the pricing strategy. um, there are different type of rules. So these IIM certifications I've seen, they are focused on the product strategy or more of a strategic roles, whereas there are, I think, agile product management roles as well. And this is, I think, very helpful in India. And that's why I said it really depends on your aspiration, whether you want to grow in the product ownership role or you want to get into the product management role. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, once you are right in this case, but there is another concern, like you told, rather than just theory, you need to get into the practices, right? So how we
Yeah.
can get these kind of practices? It's not so easy.
It's not, yeah, it's a chicken and egg problem, right?
Yes.
What I suggest is try to, okay, there are actually hard practice and a soft practice. So soft practice could be taking any product, right, which could be your own company product or standard, maybe Google Maps, or any of your favorite products, and try to go through all these steps that are explained in the certification, right? So it can start from, let's say, product strategy, right? So completely keeping yourself blank or not visiting, let's say, Google Maps, but you're aware of what it does at the high level. Now put yourself back, let's say you're defining the product strategy for Google Maps, what that could be, right? And create a document. This can be a living document. You can revisit this back again and again, and this is one of the way to do it. And then again, have the interviews with your peers, right, and try to validate with them. They might have different points. Try to talk to the mentors. I think it's amazing. It's fantastic to have mentors into the product management or any kind of role, I believe. But that's also true for the product management, precisely for this reason, because they will be able to review this assignment and try to coach you on whether you need to change your direction of thinking, if there are any missing skills, missing points that you need to add. Now this is the one part. The other part is here, be watchful, right? So try to find out if there are any possibilities within your current organization to help the product owners or product managers. And this is where I started, right? Without even being called as product manager that time, because I was sitting close to the engineering. I was actually a software engineer, and this is where I said, my product manager back in US, you have been sending these requirements, and this was slightly pre-agile time, through the PRD document, and then there is a gap because it's a time gap and also the knowledge gap, but because typically those product managers may not be knowing entire system working, so that how can I fill this in? And that product manager that time was extremely happy with this proposal. Why? Because of these two gaps, the product was not heading in the right direction, right? The way they would always want. Ultimately, what they want is a product success in terms of the revenue, in terms of the customer satisfaction. And if you are trying to get them, they'll be really happy. Now, fortunately, after 10 years, there are a lot of internal product openings, and this is where you can join. So I feel that it's a combination of these things together, not just in silo. So just try to understand where are the opportunities where you can try to implement those learnings in the certification. And by the way, these certification itself internally have their own assignments, by the way, at least a couple of them to start with.
Yes, yes, they, as per them, they have some kind of capstone project, but I don't know
Yeah.
what capstone project they usually talk about.
Yeah, correct. And that definitely gives you a very good understanding, especially because they have their own faculties which are qualified enough, right? They're coming from IIM. However, you need to practice, right? How do you try to remember what you learned in 10th standard? I'm sure none of us will be able to, unless he or she is sharp enough, everything from 10th standard. Then you need to implement it, right? And that's where I think not just during the capstone project, but also try to do this as a habit. There is also something called as product critical thinking, product sense thinking, where around you, right, you see a lot of things. So try to be critical about the product, what you are using, and try to write down the notes about what things could be changed, why they should be changed, why things should be prioritized. Try to find out the problems. So for example, there are a lot of problems initially when you started using, a lot of problems in team, and we used to actually have internal competition, so these are the problems that we have. And why, as a product manager, why should be prioritizing, let's say, adding of the rooms, right? The conference room or the chat rooms within the call, why that feature should be important enough. Obviously it's a missing feature, it has not achieved the feature parity with Zoom. And then the other product manager, putting his or her own cap, will think about, okay, these are other features that in my line, and this is the bandwidth I have, so that's why I'm not keeping it. And eventually, we used to track the Microsoft has got a very nice way of presenting the upcoming features, the kind of product roadmap they presented, and we used to see the feature actually coming up, right, next August or next September, after a couple of months. So try to be critical about the products that you're using, one of your favorite products, and try to create these notes around it. It's more of a habit, I would say. When you start developing it, your it's like exercise, right? You do it every day. Obviously, your body will grow fitter.
Thank you, Bansi.
Okay.
Bansi,
But
can
yeah, I
I
mean,
add something here?
yeah,
Hi,
please go ahead,
this is Ravindra here.
Ravindra.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ashutosh, if you permit, I can add a couple of minutes here.
please.
Yeah. So I had been into IT since last 27 years, and I played a project manager, delivery manager, product owner, scrum master, RT roles. And from there, it is my self-learning that the product manager role is a combination of project management plus product ownership. Now, when it comes to the certification, definitely one can do a product owner certification to understand how the product has to be developed in agile way. That could be Scrum, that could be Safe, or that could be Kanban or Scrumban or any other methodology. When it comes to the project management, why I'm saying that? Because the same person has to play a project management role towards his upper level or upper ladder stakeholders, because they want to hear everything in their own terms, which is typically a PMO language like schedule variance, cost variance, then the different KPIs and the trains and all these things. Normally, product owners are not doing all these things. They only think of product burn chart or product burn down chart or burn up chart and all these things. Now, this is why the product manager is something which is not directly on a day-to-day basis involved with the product development, because one product manager may have a multiple uh, product owners, and the product owners are going to run their different value streams or the projects also in agile way. So that's why I feel from my own experience that the product manager role is a something hybrid or combination of project management and the product ownership. So if someone wants to land into product management role, then first definitely they have to understand the agile basics, which you are all or everybody in this call knows very well. But looking everything from a product owner's perspective or from that class, they need to go through the course. They need not to be certified, but they need to understand the way how the things work, okay, in agile world, and how to convert that into a PMO office perspective. Okay, that is what my thought. Okay, could be altogether wrong based on everyone's individual experiences, but this is what my experience from Accenture, Mindtree, Toyota, and UK, and so many other companies, multinational companies.
Hey, Ravindra, I think you are spot on. Definitely, I think being a highly collaborative role, you have to be having the role of product owner, because you need to talk to product owner almost on daily basis. You should. I always say that a product manager and product owner are defined because one person cannot work for 24 hours entire day. If he or she would, we could have only one role, right? One, I mean, 12 hours go back to talk to customers, try to understand, talk to sales, try to talk to the external teams, and come back, 12 hours and talk to the engineering team. And that's not a possibility. At the same time, it is also about the project and the program management. That's where the program management comes in. I definitely feel that it's a combination of all those together, plus some customer perspective, and that's what the product managers are made. Thanks, Ravindra, for insight. That's a great insight.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk here.
Of course, and this is exactly what we want. In this call, Ravindra, I think just like you, I encourage and I really request everyone to come forward, share their experiences, because we are coming really from the diverse background and we can add value individually. Okay, so let's say you you're spot on. You somehow cracked the product management interview, and you got either into the product ownership role or you are now a product manager. It really doesn't matter. But now you're getting onboarded, right? And I will talk about having no distinction in product management. I know that in practically there is a differentiation exists, but I always thought, right, when I behaved like I was in that system engineering role, which is equivalent to product owner role, I never differentiated myself as not being product manager. I always behaved like a product manager, thought like a product manager, because ultimately both of them are together representing the customer even in Agile, it's a proxy customer. It's not proxy product manager. We mistakenly, I think treat product manager, product owner as a proxy product manager. That's a mistake because we are creating another level of abstraction, and that should not be there. So essentially, all the points I'm going to talk about apply to both product manager and product owner. Okay, so let's start here, the product and rule. So let's think about, imagine yourself in your current organization, or in the new company, you're sitting in a product manager role. And again, I'm not going to differentiate between PO and PM here. And first month, 1 month, what's your what's your important stuff to be done? First of all, have as many meetings as possible with everyone. This is the only opportunity for you. First 15 days, you have a great advantage of a newcomer. You know nothing. So your opportunity to go and talk to even a VP of services, the VP of sales team, doesn't matter. It may be hard to get the time, but they will be happy to, if you have very fascinating email talking about you being a product manager for this product, and you really convince them to talk into you, they will offer your time, maybe 15 minutes, that's fine. Understand the product and understand your role from the team, and your boss, also from observing, because by the way, that is also, observation is one of the key characteristics that drives the empathy. So observe how the organization work, what are the strategic values, what are the important aspects, what is the history of the company, what is the product history, what kind of acquisitions were made in past 5 years, how the strategy of the product has changed, was there any pivots that happened between the journey, like changing the direction of the product, how the product grew from, let's say, serving to a small segment to a mid market, did it actually started catering to a different set of users, let's say new geographies, new languages, new persona. So try to understand that you should be the best user and the worst user of the product. What I mean by that, so best user because you are actually going to advocate about your product in terms of the customer, in front of sales team, in front of the services teams, and then you should be able to talk very confidently about your product, not being able to, not necessarily taking the help from the engineering team or any other teams in the organization. You should be the worst user because you should try to, when you're testing the product, you should try to really slaughter each and every feature of the product. You should be able to exploit every um, user persona involved with the product, different flows involved here, because that gives you immense amount of confidence when you talk back with the different teams. When you talk to the engineering team, you actually gain the confidence because they really like if you are technical enough, and they feel that you are actually trying to understand them very well, right? You should be able to write great epics or user stories because you have gone through, you understand the problems, you understand what is the main key feature of the product, how is differentiate from other products. Understand the business, and this is where I think Ravindra, you talked about having different KPIs for business, different KPIs for customers, and this I'm talking about from B2B perspective, and that can be different KPIs for B2C. So for business, what is my KPI? What does CEO think about? They want to increase their customer satisfaction. They want to reduce any operational um, uh, they want to increase the operational efficiencies. They want to increase the revenue. So those are the main KPIs from them, right? And that's where the overall corporate strategy or the company strategy is defined. Now, this actually helps me to define my own product strategy, right? And this is where I know how the product is performing. And that could be depending on B2C or B2B. It could be either again, it can be the same like product revenue, or it can be all about number of licenses because it gets a little more deeper, right? User engagement, for example, right? User feedback. and all those kind of product KPIs which are coming into play. And then there is executional KPIs, the velocity of the team, the burn down, and all the agile type of matrix. And that's where the product owner and the product manager differentiation comes in. However, as a product manager, I should know perspective of all these angles, not just about my product KPIs, but also about how business is doing, what are their problems, how my engineering teams are doing, what are their problems, what are their concerns, what are the impediments they are going to face in next 3 to 4 months, depending on the features I'm bringing in. Then the stakeholders alignment, and this is key. I think we talked about these KPIs. Naturally, it flows into this empathy side of the concerns everyone has, right? So sales team is actually, for example, very tactical, talking about thinking about their account. Can I actually close this particular deal, right? Whereas marketing is trying to think about the number of leads that they can generate, number of campaigns they need to drive, whereas services is thinking about how much I can gain the revenue from the implementation side, how many new number of projects which are coming in, how can I add the value into the system, right? All these angles, and engineering team, obviously, right, they are concerned about obviously the technology side of it, how to be competitive, how to actually keep at the top of the ladder in terms of technology to keep engineers happy, how do I increase the retention, and employee engagement overall, right? Now, only when you understand all these angles, you should be able to talk the individual language. How do you talk to the designer, product designer? How do you talk to the engineers, right? All that comes into play, and there's the alignment, right? Alignment only comes when you actually there is a synergy between your growth perspective versus their growth perspective, their goal alignment versus your goal alignment. And that's where you try to bring in that. So you have to negotiate, you need to come to the same page through this alignment. And then finally, I think I talked about, all these three are part of the invert focus, right? Although we talked about customers, but again, those are the customers we are serving. But we also need to think about the industries and the greater level mega trends in the industry, where they are flowing. Is my current product is, let's say, performing really great right now, but will it be performing with the same pace after maybe 3 years? Or what kind of features I should be adding, what kind of new geographies I should be launching into, what kind of new partnership I should be forming. All that is part of the industry trends. Whether you should build a product or with the specific components, you should buy it right now, because you cannot wait for the market to, you cannot expect the market to wait until that time. So all that is part of the market industry analysis. Now, should you be rockstar, you should be knowing everything while you're onboard this? Definitely no, it's well understood, because it takes time, right? Even to understand your product, it will take months and months together. But at least if you are aware, right, what are the top KPIs, for example, in this side, right? What are the top KPIs I need to worry about when I'm actually creating the strategy? That is definitely I should be aware of. How the basic functionality of the product, that I should be aware of. Who all are my stakeholders, right? Are these stakeholders influential enough, or should I probably, not worry about these stakeholders any, much? That really depends. So for example, if you have a healthcare product, right? Who do you think is your biggest influencer? I mean, obviously very important influencer, which otherwise may not be important in other type of products. Any guess? Your legal team, right? They are concerned about the compliance, right? Company can go bankrupt even though you may have the rockstar features, rockstar product managers performing really well in terms of the revenue. But if you're not fulfilling the compliance norms, you're gone, right? They can sue you billions and billions of dollars, and then you have no business. So really identify those stakeholders in the first month, understand their pain points, understand their history, where exactly they're coming from, so that your next discussions after 6 months or 3 months, they actually go smooth. Understand during the firefighting, why that person is thinking this way. So yeah. Finally, rise and shine. And this picture represents the whole purpose of rise and shine, right? It's not one person rising, it's actually the team coming together. Finally, individual product managers, they cannot survive because they don't know how to code, or they know but they cannot code it, right? The product, they cannot sell directly individually, right? They need a help from sales team. They cannot serve, they cannot they need help from the services team. So it's not about just thriving in your role. When when your other people thrive, your product thrives, and then you thrive. That's how the rise and shine works in product management. And I believe that's kind of true for everyone. But I think the focus, as Ravindra mentioned, the focus changes. So for example, if engineering team is creating really great features with coming up with a I mean great quality in terms of number of bugs, very less. This basically is what is they are concerned about, apart from obviously the technology and other things, right? But as a product manager, as we discussed in the previous slide, you literally need to think about all the different perspectives, and that's where working together as a team from the different department, that's come very vital and important in this case. Now, what are the different characteristics that will help you, rise and shine? Create influence. All the points that I mentioned in the previous slide, that will help you to create an influence. If you know about, sorry, if you know about your industry well, right, and your customers well, you are going to bring a different perspective which your engineering team is not aware of. That's what exactly they're expecting. So, lot many times this happens, right? In the product management type, they're all complaining about, you know, I feel that the velocity of the team is very less, right? The point is, you cannot code. How do you predict the velocity, right? Only when you understand the product very well, you understand how the technology works, you'll be in the better position, and team should be able to accept that. But the way you can actually bring in and try to push the velocity even further is when you can bring the customer perspective. So team gets really motivated if they feel that they're contributing into the great product. Example, right? There is a lot of talk going on about Elon Musk, right? um, think about in difficult times of his SpaceX journey, right? People really did not trust that the company can fly when a single rocket, like a firecracker, right? Why? Because he did not have the right kind of experience in first place. He had actually experience with the software companies, right? But eventually he gained the knowledge, right? And also he showed the dream. If you go to the Elon Musk, the SpaceX office, I think there is this big picture of the Mars, which is getting terraformed into the Earth kind of life, right? That's the vision. That's the inspiration, where the SpaceX people, the SpaceX employees, they literally work for 16 hours. Why they work? Is it because of money? Probably not, because it's not probably the topmost paid company. They work for that vision, they work for that kind of impact they're making, and they'll be able to proudly tell this to generations ahead, that I help somehow the people, the next generation, to get onto the Mars, right? So that's kind of influence you can create if you have the right vision. And product manager is very well in that position because they are creating the product vision, product strategy. So definitely they can bring that into the team. Be creative, try to think about different kind of solutions in the market. Okay, first of all, don't even think about solution in the first place, right? So first think about the problem that you are having. How do I validate the problem? Because it's not easy to get the customer access all the time, right? So what are the different ways of getting to the customer? How can I actually rationalize the rush from the sales team who are only concerned about the current accounts? How do I have those discussions creatively? How do I tell them that, okay, I'm not going to give you feature X, but because I'm investing that energy into feature Y, which actually is going to not going to help your own account, this account, but it is going to help you with 3 more accounts that you have. So those kind of creative solutions really help, and these solutions not necessarily only the technological solutions. In fact, they say that product managers should be creating a lot of solutions, right? Not true. They should be collaborating with the solutions. Obviously, as a contributor, you can come up with a patent idea, you can come up with a great idea, but what product managers really need to be concerned about is the problem that being solved, and that's where creativity comes into play, um, to push the teams to the right problem and the right solution. Teams are actually very intelligent to come up with the solution, I think, most of the times. Representing customers, right? Why a product manager should be valued or not valued is definitely bringing that perspective. Even in Agile, they say that um, product owner is representing the customer. It's a dummy customer, right? And if you're not doing that, what are you doing? There is nothing actually. So you have to represent the customer angle. And when I say customer, it's not just just one person. You need to think about the overall target segment. There is a different buyer persona versus user persona. In terms of B2B, for example, the buyer persona could be the IT people who are ordering your application, but they may not be using the application. So for example, whoever many of you guys may be using the Teams, right? MS Teams, or maybe MS Office. Did you actually buy it? No. There was someone else who bought this application, typically the IT folks. And even there was someone else funded it. So IT were actually the decision makers, but there was a contributors like finance who actually checked the deals, or sourcing department. So there are different kind of buying personas available. And ultimately we are the users. And only when a company actually have the combination of they have thought through the combination of the different personas, that's where the value comes in. So somehow, if even if let's say you buy, let's say, MS Office, and then for 3 years it's there, but people are not happy, for once Microsoft will be benefited for maybe first 3 years, but then people will start complaining and eventually they will throw out the solution. So they have to keep adding different kind of features, solving different kind of problems in order to stay relevant. And that's where different type of personas comes into play. And this is where the perspective from the market, perfect perspective from the customer comes in. And finally, collaborate and communicate. And Ravinder, I think this is to your point, like why there is so much of similarity between product managers and product PMO office. This is the reason. Those are the probably the highly collaborative people in the industry. Within the company. PMO, um, they're focused on the project or the program, and they are actually ensuring that it's getting delivered at the right, with the right material and right time, and where the product managers are trying to bring in what should be built, and why it should be built. There was I actually had a tweet on this topic a couple of days back, which is like, if you want to take an example of bicycle, right? Product manager decides that I need to create a bicycle in the South Asian market for the persona, like for the kids, teenage kids, or the kids, um, having recreation as their primary activity, um, and the value should be set between, um, let's say $500, right, to $700. That's what we as a product managers are thinking. What we as a product PMO or the project manager is thinking is, okay, I have this, right? I have this task to create this bicycle. How my engineering team is actually trying to keep it in the schedule to launch this bicycle within the given material cost in next 1 year. That's what PMO is deciding. Now, it's not just happening in segregation, right? They have to work together. Sometimes actually product manager has to actually play like a role of PMO, and other way around, right? Only when you do it together, and understand each other's perspective or each other's KPIs, that's where you actually rise and shine finally. That's where, I mean, I thought, I hope these are the 4 points, and I'm pausing here and waiting for your questions. And you can scan this QR code in your um, smartphone to connect with me. I'll be happy to have the extend the conversation in one-on-one.
Yeah,
And
thanks,
I'm
thanks,
I'm
Bansi. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Bansi. Yeah,
No, I'm ready to answer any of your questions right now.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, thanks. I think that was a wonderful session. I think it gave a lot of insight. So anyone has any questions, and yeah, feel free to connect with Bansi has given the QR code. Anyone has any questions? I know there were some questions in between, but anything related to the topic, any more questions?
Just trying to
You
see
can
if
unmute.
there are any questions in the chat.
Yeah, there were no questions in the chat. I was monitoring it.
Okay.
So I said there were no
Perfect.
questions, specific questions in the chat. Yeah. Anyone else? Any questions? Okay.
Bansi, one question, please. Uh, in my company, there are n number of product managers, right? But they
Mhm.
are working in UI UX environment as well with wireframes and all these things. So how important it is for the product manager?
Okay. A great question, actually. And personally, to me, the best time I have spent, let's say I consider my week, best time is when I spend with the UI UX people. Why? Because it's the most creative time. I feel that um, there is always a question whether product manager should create wireframes or the design, or let designer do it. My answer would be, if there is availability of UI UX designer, then we just talk about that perspective. Do not even think about the giving the wireframe. Just talk, have the interview kind of a communication, and let them create the first draft, because their creativity works in a very different fashion. If you give the design, they will actually get probably restricted. Best designers may not even get restricted. They will just ignore the points, and they will just only take what is important from them from the discussion and the design. But as a product manager, it really helps to understand the basics of the design. I feel that that is very important. There are, I think there are some books on the design and the product design as well. Um, there is a Don Norman book on design, and it's like a Bible for the design itself. So there are a bunch of books there. I feel that there are different courses, or even in Skillshare there are different courses available for design. I'm not promoting by the way Skillshare or any specific tool, but yeah, I think basic knowledge of design definitely helps for the product managers. That is how they can actually create the design even before validating with designer. They can actually show it to their sales team or customers sometimes in their dialogue with them. So I would say have a basic understanding at least, but you probably don't have to be expert if your company has the designers.
Okay, thank you. And there is another question. Sorry for that. I'm
Sure,
asking.
no, please go ahead. I'll be happy. Yeah.
Okay. For example, I want to start my own startup, right? So, how it can help me? And the product manager is important. I mean, right? As a
Okay.
product, right? Hope you understood.
Great question, Amit. Amit, and if you are thinking about that, I'll be happy to help you. Okay, connect with me in one-on-one. Um, you probably will not have any product manager. If you are starting, there are two roles actually in the startup. One is seller. The second one is creator. If you are starting with, let's say, very small team, you will be the seller and creator in partial creator as well, but most likely you'll be seller. This is where you are trying to understand, you're trying to define the problem, you're trying to understand the persona of and defining the target segment. But then all that language is the product manager language, right? So you are also a product manager. Okay, I don't think unless you are really well funded, right, or you have really huge amount of money that you want to invest in, usually you would not have a product manager on day one unless you are yourself a product manager, right? And then you are transforming yourself as a CEO there. But in most of the cases, CEO is going to be the first product manager of the company.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Hi,
think
Hiten.
Hiren
Yeah,
has a
please go ahead.
question. Yeah.
Hiten, please go
Hi,
ahead.
Ashutosh. Thanks for sharing the invite. Really appreciate that. And Bansi, I hope I have not missed the major part of your session. Wonderful
No, no,
session.
yeah.
Wonderful presentation. Thanks. I had a similar question to what Amit just described, right? See, in a startup, people have to wear multiple hats, right? I mean, they have to utilize the funds in a way, and then they have to get off the ground. As you said, right? You have to take off the flight. And then you can, get more functional people, more dedicated resources on board. So
Yeah.
you highlighted in a very nice way, like creator and seller, right? But functionally, they play the same role as you just described, right? You play the so if you have an existing idea, like if you already have something like Swiggy or Zomato or Baiju, whatever, you already have a product. But in case if you do not have a concept, you're not even reached a business case, you're just conceptualizing an idea, then what hat you should be wearing on? You should be continue to wear the creator's hat, or you should be doing like preliminary market survey, market research, get some kind of a pulse survey from the potential clients. How exactly you should evolve your strategy in that case?
Okay, great question again. As you said, if you have not reached to that level of having some basic solution, I would spend like 90% of my time on understanding the problem, right? A
Hmm,
problem space and a solution space.
correct.
Solution maybe yes, but not really on a day one or day two, right?
Hmm.
In fact, the way Airbnb started was this problem itself. They themselves face a problem when they
Yeah,
went
yeah,
out for
exactly.
a
That's a
match.
fantastic story,
Yeah,
Airbnb. Yeah, yeah.
right. Yeah, so and this is a story I think I'm sure with every great company that was started. I mean, they faced a huge problem,
Problem.
and that's what they wanted to solve. And I feel that that's how it should be. Um, unless there is a very clear idea the technologist had, and this could be another flip side, right? So let's say you're working with a large MNC or some
Hmm.
company, and you'd seen some problem, right? Not hopefully not with in the competing space with your current organization,
Correct. Yeah.
but you saw some problem which you feel that this will not be addressed, or companies are not interested to address this in this space. So your problem is well digested, and then you have already thought through the solution, and that's where
Right.
you may actually start building the prototype.
Absolutely.
But again, most likely it is going to be
For small
problem
startup, this
discovery.
can be a tricky situation unless they have strongly funded, as you also rightly mentioned, right? I mean, they have to burn their own
Yeah,
pockets. Like
yeah,
they have to
unless you're
identify which
bootstrapped.
market segment for which particular customer segment, customer profile. Do we have like personas? Is there
Absolutely.
anyone out there who's going to really look at this product and maybe think about buying this product or a service, right? So those questions need to
Exactly.
be really answered. And this is where you have to flip over hat, from sometimes from a product manager to a creator and then creator seller, right? Because it's your startup, it's your money.
Absolutely, exactly. And a lot many times we actually get into that solution dilemma, right? Humans are actually great solution creators. We like to jump into the problem and try to get into the solution right away. Think
Mm.
about any brainstorming discussion as well, right? We want to help them. Okay, why don't you do this? This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
my our
absolutely.
first reaction. And now, on the departing note, if you bring in this angle of product manager in your personal life, in fact, I'm bet that is going to help you there as well. So if let's say your friends or your spouse comes in and tells you the problem, and you try to jump into solution, it may
Yeah,
get into conflict. But if you actually try to empathize on it, try to
yeah.
understand the perspective, don't give the solution right away. Solution, give the solution after one day. I think that is going to help you.
Wonderful, wonderful. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think, yeah, this is universally applicable what you just described, right? Yeah. So
Yeah,
try to shift away your mindset of thinking or your propensity to straight away go into solutioning rather than do more and more problem exploration. Have you really dug out enough to reach to the bottom of okay, what problem statement is everyone have the same definition, same understanding of problem statement, that the same problem that we all
Absolutely.
trying to solve here. Wonderful. Thanks. Over to you, Ashutosh.
Thank you so much. Great insights, Hiten, by the way. Thank you so much.
No,
for
and I
contributing.
appreciate your answer. Thank you very much, Bharat.
Thanks, Hiren. I think, in the interest of time, I think we can take a pause. And you can always reach out to Bansi and one-on-one and get connected with him. I'm sure there's a lot of knowledge there, wealth of knowledge. Yeah. So Bansi, I would like to just share a screen for a moment, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Just stop sharing
I'll just
now.
share it. Yeah. I'm just, and participants, feel free to come on camera. I think we also want to see you. Those of you who want to connect with me also, you can connect with me. Now these are the various ways you can connect with me on YouTube, LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me. And Bansi, first of all, thanks once again for spending Friday evening with us. I know it's not easy to spend Friday evening. So as a small token of appreciation, we are giving you this. I'll be mailing you this. So it's a small, I would say, that gratitude from our community. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. We had a lot of people on LinkedIn Live also. I'm sure they will reach out to you and they will connect with you one-on-one. And to the community, this was, as I said, right, we are trying to get more speakers from the industry. It should not happen my show only. So we will have more speakers lined up in the weeks to come. So do join these sessions. We'll be sending you a detailed communication about how to join these sessions, how to come on our Telegram group. So please watch out for an email on that. Any last words, Bansi, before we finally wrap up the session?
I want to actually give thanks to you, Ashutosh, for giving me the opportunity to come on and talk to such a fabulous audience. And I want to thank each and every one of you. Actually, like Ashutosh said, it's not easy to take out your time out of personal life. You could be spending time with your friends and family, or in the brewery or whatever, right? But you actually joined and come in with the hope that there is some knowledge, and I hope I was successful, at least partially, to deliver on that promise. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bansi. And once again, thanks everyone, and have a happy weekend ahead. See you in the next session. Thanks a lot, and happy Friday to all of you. Bye.
Thanks, Ashutosh.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bansi.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.